The Mountain West celebrates 25 years. They've got some great goals, and so do I. Let's talk about it.
It's always college football season, so we're back on the Big Mountain to keep you updated on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
Hey, it's great to have you here on the Big Mountain. I am JY, and this is my good friend Steve. And Steve, I want to talk a little bit about the Mountain West in this episode. They just came out with a new strategic plan celebrating their 25th year. Fantastic, love it. And Commissioner Nevarez announced that there's a new 5-year strategic plan. It's called Ascend Together, Our Path to Excellence. I love how they always are getting this mountain theme into everything they do. Ascend Together. This process began in February of 23, so a year ago, with the appointment of co-chairs Jeremiah Dickey, the AD of Boise State, and Colonel Meg Martin, Air Force faculty athletic representative. And these two work together with a team of 13 other committee members, with all 12 Mountain West schools being represented. Per the press release from the Mountain West, the strategic plan establishes the league's principles of competitive excellence, academic achievement, integrity, relentless drive, and community and inclusion. These are supported by detailed objectives, goals, resources, and timeliness to ensure accountability and implementation. We're going to get into the priorities and goals here in a minute. Per Nevarez, the primary focus will be a best-in-class student-athlete experience. The strategic plan provides a vibrant and malleable roadmap for our many years of success ahead. In reviewing the plan, it appears that the Mountain West is laying the groundwork for bigger ambitions than just maintaining the status quo. So what did they put in this, Steve? Let's look at this.
Yeah.
They have 5 strategic priorities. Number 1, support Mountain West member institutions in providing student athletes an exceptional experience. Number 2, position the Mountain West among the nation's elite athletic conferences through success, innovation, and brand enhancement. Number 3, enhance revenue generation and support for their members. Number 4, energize and engage Mountain West members. And number 5, maximize the effectiveness of conference operations. Some notable goals that they have, they had many, but I'm going to pull out some of them for the next 5 years. To enhance the collective national brand and media presence for the Mountain West. Develop a plan to ensure multiple teams are competing for berths in the college football playoffs. Embrace and evaluate all opportunities for membership composition to maintain and enhance competitiveness. Actively and aggressively seek revenue opportunities. Work with current and potential broadcast and streaming partners to maximize revenues and exposure. I'm going to get into that in a minute with an idea JY has. I'm going to reach out to one of the broadcasters tonight and tell them to get on board with the Mountain West.
All right.
Heavy. So anyway, you're going to hear more about that one. Ensure prudent fiscal stewardship for all revenues and expenses. A few additional thoughts on those goals. Clearly, they want to be a top-ranked group of 5 conference for the college football playoffs. That's their goal. They are looking to make sure, and they said it early on, at least one, if not several, teams getting into the college football playoffs. Obviously, they're looking at, I think, when you kind of read between the lines here, it's a strategic plan, so it's going to be a little bit broad. But I think they're obviously talking about possible inclusion of Washington State and Oregon State and other schools in the near future in their 5-year strategic plan. It obviously talks about increasing their value and exposure for media rights negotiations. Their current deal ends in 2026 with both Fox and CBS. And then addressing, I think it kind of sounds like, and I think you would put this in terms of a management style, but specifically what happened with the PAC. You know, they're addressing the PAC mismanagement, and I guess we could even say maybe the ACC mismanagement right now, to ensure that they're on a much stronger foundation to move forward. Now, anytime these comes out, of course, there's going to be all 12 members saying, yes, we agree with this. Yes, it's our strategic plan. We talked about some of that when we were looking at the ACC coming out of their board of trustee meetings. They were all arm in arm, kumbaya-ing and coming out of a strategic plan. That's what you would expect them to be. But I do appreciate some of the goal setting that they have here, a little more specific than maybe some strategic plans could have. If you're going to have goals and you're going to set more specifics to them, you're gonna be held to that standard then. So I'm glad to see they added some of that. And to me, this is clear. And then I'll get your thoughts, and then we'll get into what I want to do with some broadcasting stuff. Yeah. But to me, this is clear that a very strong argument can be made that this is the top, and I'm going to continue to say G5 until we get into the football season, but the top G5 conference right now. Certainly when you look at football, and I mentioned this in another episode, you got the Mountain West, you got the Sun Belt, you got the American. Up and down, you can make a case probably for any one of those three to be the top football conference. But I think when you include basketball into this equation, when you look at from a total athletic experience, the Mountain West is the top, the peak, dare I say, of the group of five. I hope that they can continue. I hope they can meet some of these goals. I hope Washington State and Oregon State are paying attention, which I know they are. And I don't want to get into them. We have plenty of episodes about those two, but I think it's really setting this up really nicely for whether it's those two or another school or two to look at the Mountain West as, this is a great option for us. They are the premier west side of the country conference moving forward that's purely in that region. So I'm very interested there. What are your thoughts here on the Mountain West, Steve?
Well, first of all, I got to say that we just absolutely, a lot of the verbiage and the theming, we just love to hear that one, on the Big Mountain, because it aligns with a lot of our things we talk about here. So, first of all, I agree with you. I think the Mountain West is in a great position. We've talked about this multiple times. Great position to establish themselves as what I always call the best of the rest.
Sure.
I think they're right there, probably with the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Going forward, as far as if we're going to look at the old traditional G5, I think them and the Sun Belt right there. And there's to me, so the Sun Belt has some geographic advantages being in that southeastern part of the country. There's a lot of talent down there. There's a lot of interest, but I think there's a lot of strategic value to where the Mountain West has positioned itself somewhat geographically, but also in some of the other things we're trying to do to be that premier West Coast conference.
Right.
We have basically a power vacuum with the Pac-12, disintegrating. Right. We'll see what happens with that. And like you said, we don't want to make this another Oregon State, Washington State conference conversation, but they're in a really good position to kind of showcase themselves in those later time slots in the evening. And I know you're going to talk about Fox here and all that.
Yep.
So that was kind of my main point. And then as far as we've said multiple times over and over again that the most important thing going forward is who are the programs, who are the conferences that are going to more quickly adapt to the new landscape of college football. Mm-hmm. We're really not in that old Power 5 and G5. We have to use those phrases still because they use the phrases in there.
Yes, right.
But who will more quickly adapt? And I think this shows the commissioner and the programs in the Mountain West. They see what is coming. Mm-hmm. They're looking towards the future. The college football playoff was the number one item, right?
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily in an order. The first was just that collective national brand and media presence. The second one that I had was that competing for berths in the CFP.
And to me, that is absolutely huge.
Kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Absolutely. And I really think that that's a huge thing going forward. We had over the past year, we've had a monumental sea change in college football with the realignment of the conferences, and now with the expansion to 12 teams. This is a huge opportunity. You and I went through, and we saw different years. If we would have had a 12-team playoff, there would have been Mountain West teams in the college football playoff over the years. Maybe we might decide to do another episode on that, reviewing that, how it would have affected the Big Ten and the Mountain West over the offseason. But that's the whole ball game going forward. Is can they at least get one team? If they can really have one team each year, and we talked about Boise for next year is in a great position. Now, if they were able to add Oregon State and Washington State, I could see them even going further and being in that position to have two, possibly two teams. So let's talk about a scenario where Boise goes, let's say Oregon State upsets Oregon in their rivalry game. What is it called? The Civil War. Okay, yeah. Oregon State upsets Oregon, but Boise goes undefeated and beats Oregon State in a championship game or something like that. You could have two teams, going forward. I think it'll be a little tough the way they're constructed now to get two teams in, but I think Commissioner Navarro's words were, we want to have multiple teams competing.
Correct.
And I think you could see that where you have, teams like Boise, Fresno, Wyoming, and some other teams. We get to the end of the year and they all look like they're players for the college football playoff. And then two of them play each other in the championship game, which would be, a great scenario for the Mountain West. So I think they have a great opportunity. It's a great time for them. So it's a great time also to set these new strategic positions, their strategic plan. That's a hard word. I have trouble.
Strategic plan. Yes.
Strategic plan in motion.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If it ends up being over the next couple of years that the winner of the Mountain West Championship game, it's kind of a play into the college football playoff.
That's fantastic.
They both are competing for that spot. You have that one game to kind of get in, possibly. I'm a lot of teams out there. I get it, but that would be phenomenal. Again, talk about national branding, media presence. If people know, wow, this is a game that's kind of a precursor to a national championship team, could be great stuff happening. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think this coming year is a great time to make that first impression.
Sure.
You got Boise. We've talked about them, possible Heisman Trophy candidate. Great roster, great team. Looks like a lot of people coming back. First year of the 12-team playoff. So you're the Mountain West guy and the Big Ten guy, but I'm super excited to see what happens in the Mountain West this year.
Absolutely. So it's time to get a little crazy up in here. I'm going to get a little crazy. I'm going to throw something out there because this is it's for fun, but I'd also like to see it happen. I mean, I think the fruit is ripe for the picking right here in the Mountain West. And this is going to get into media rights.
Okay.
Right now, the conference does not have good football media rights. The big the Sun Belt's ahead of them, the Americans ahead of them. They obviously, as they get to 2026 and they're looking for a partner, whoever that's going to be, they've got to get a lot more value out of it moving forward than where they're at. I think they obviously know that.
Yeah.
But here's where I'm at with this, Steve. I'm going to make a pitch to Fox.
All right.
So listen up, Fox. You can have the entire western half of the U.S., not just the coast, the entire western half of the U.S., D1 college football right here with the Mountain West. Now, you're going to pull out a few. Obviously, you're pulling out USC, you're pulling out Washington, Oregon, UCLA, a couple others. But by and large, the western half of the U.S. conference is going to be the Mountain West. Fox, you have said you are looking for regional branding. You are looking for rivalry games. This is you, Fox. This is you. I'm speaking right to you. Go and meet with the Mountain West. I think you go heavy Mountain West. Can you get the Beavs and Cougs on board?
Yep.
Possibly. You then have a monopoly on D1 football from the Rocky Mountains to the west. I mean, it's a monopoly. Again, a few teams here or there. You've got a couple that went to the Big Ten, a couple that went to the ACC, Lord knows, a couple in the Big 12, just sprinklings here and there. But if you can create that branding, you can say, this is the premier D1 college football conference. Who maybe comes back to you in a few years,
Absolutely.
5 years? Who knows? We're doing a whole episode on 2030 right now. As I say, I think it's ripe for the picking. I think you can look at New Mexico State, maybe. I think you can look at UTEP, maybe. There's just a lot of teams there that I think you can have a very strong 16 school conference, 16-member conference, split them into 2 divisions of 8. Fantastic. Let's do this. Fox, get on board. Let's make this happen with the Mountain West. There, I'm cheering. I'm a cheerleader tonight, Steve. I'm cheering for the Mountain West. That's my idea. Get Fox in there. Let's get this done.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. That's actually what's been kind of on my mind over the last year. Exactly what you're laying out.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to go with, okay, so we talked about this. There's the new Big Two, the Big Ten and the SEC. Fox, they're fully invested in the Big Ten. their business model with the Big Ten is that big noon kickoff, okay? So they got the big games at noon. They got other games throughout the afternoon. I noticed this last year, the Mountain West package was kind of split between Fox and CBS. And honestly, the CBS Sports Network, they did a really good job.
I agree. I appreciate CBS Sports Network.
Yes. So good production value, and they had some really good announcers and commentary guys on there. They did a good job. However, also Fox this year, they did a good job, and they had some key Mountain West games in prime time slots on FS1, and I think maybe even a couple on Fox on the flagship network, like 10 o'clock games or later. That to me, ESPN and Fox, they're already kind of they've split the territory of like the early time slots. Now, ESPN, their thing used to be Pac-12 after dark. Okay, well, the Pac-12 is gone. That's just the way it is. And from all indications, ESPN doesn't have any more money. The parent company ABC, they're looking to maybe sell ESPN or split it off or whatever. And it doesn't look like they're interested in spending any more money on any more media rights. So I think this is a great opportunity for Fox to come in. They can have some 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock games on FS1, possibly on the flagship Fox network. I think it's a great opportunity for them, and also that regionality and just kind of the pairings. We've already seen Mountain West and some of the old Pac teams that are going to the Big Ten do some scheduling. And so they can dominate. Exactly agree with what you said. They can set themselves up where they can have those prime time West Coast games. Maybe some Big Ten teams against Mountain West for the next couple of years against Oregon State, Washington State. Great football games in nighttime time slots, and really position themselves well. So I'm with you on Fox investing in the Mountain West.
Yeah. Just makes sense to me.
Yes.
Just makes sense. They've got the 4 that went to the Big Ten. Obviously, Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and who am I missing? Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC, obviously, right? So you got the 4 big powers out there already in your Big Ten. You get everybody else here, again, minus a few. I just makes total sense for me.
I got 2 points I want to add on.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna you kind of put a football out there. I'm gonna pick it up and run with it a little
Go
bit.
score the TD.
Okay. All right. So first off, you mentioned Oregon State and Washington State. And this episode isn't necessarily about them. It's about the Mountain West.
Yeah.
But let's say you add them. Again, West Coast teams, premier teams. And if I'm Oregon State and Washington State, we've looked at this and we said, they're trying to cling to the old Power 4, Power 5, whatever. Think about the scheduling model and the prime time opportunities for them on TV. How much sense does it make for them to travel across the country and play noon games in the ACC, playing Miami, and if they could be in the Mountain West and have primetime games against maybe a couple Big Ten teams, and then Mountain West teams against Boise, Fresno, whatever, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock games. I think that positions for Oregon State and Washington State puts them in a lot better position than them traveling across the country playing at noon against Wake Forest and Miami and Louisville and teams like that. I don't see a big audience for that to be watching Washington State play Wake Forest at noon in the ACC. Where's the audience for that? I don't see a lot of it.
Right.
And my second point, you mentioned some teams that maybe the Mountain West could target. And we're going to continue to talk about this in our College Football 2030 series, but I'm going to give just a little teaser or a little little meat out there, throw some red meat out there. I am not sold on the stability of the Big 12. They won that initial round. Okay, that's clear. With we thought either the Big 12 or the Pac was going to be gone. Well, the Big 12 they solidified themselves. They made some good moves, and obviously the Pac did not. Pac blew up. Right. However, going forward, as we consolidate, I believe, to a Power 2, I'm not sold on the stability of the Big 12. I'm not sold on their whole model. I could see some teams having second thoughts 5-6 years from now. If Mountain West was able to get a really good deal with Fox, I know Fox has a big war chest. I've read about this over and over again. Fox has money. They want to spend it, and they're all invested in college football. If the Mountain West could get a big deal with Fox, and now they're the premier conference on the West Coast, like you said, if they could fold in Oregon State and Washington State, I think there's a possibility as we get closer to 2030, and maybe the Big 12 doesn't look like it's cracked, it is what it was cracked up to be. maybe you could persuade a couple of those to come back. And so I'm looking at, and I'm just throwing this out there. Mm-hmm. This is just conjecture. We don't usually do this, right. But just as a conversation.
I said we're getting crazy.
Yeah,
this
we're
part's
getting crazy.
Fun. We started off serious with real comments about the strategic plan. This part's for fun.
Yeah.
So go at it, because I have a small list here too. I'm sure you're going to hit the same ones I'm going to hit.
So I didn't realize you were going to do that, but yes, if you start to see cracks in the Big 12, you mentioned some other smaller programs, but I could see, trying to convince a BYU, a Utah, a Colorado, maybe, who knows what happens in the Big 12. Your list could expand from there. Yep. So do you have anything different?
No, BYU, Utah. I had Arizona State. Get into that. You have New Mexico here, but let's keep that southern tier of the West Coast as well. So yeah, I had BYU on there as well. I mean, you look at the map. And I'll throw up a map here real quick, just of the western half. It's color coded, so you can see it's all Mountain West and Big Ten at this point. That, other than a few, again, BYU sticks out to you, but slow and steady wins the race, right? Strong foundation, stay together, let the craziness happen, and then be the winner at the end. So far, to me, that's what it looks like the Mountain West is doing here. And they're in a great spot right now regionally. They got to get a good media deal here. They've got to get a good media deal. But they're in a great spot regionally. I just think it's up and away here for the Mountain West. I'm really excited for it.
I agree, and I think 2024 through like 2029, 2030 is a huge important time for the Mountain West. Mm-hmm. College football, we're splitting, we're going in different directions, and I think this is a point they are poised really well to go in the positive ascend the mountain like they talked about.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we got a little crazy on the mountain, like Steve said. We try to usually stick to known facts, or at least reporting, if you will. I wanted to get a little crazy. It was just something that as I was looking over this, reading over this, what I know about Fox and everything, I'm like, we're going to put this out there because it makes sense. I feel like they're gearing up for it, and I hope in the next year or two, good things lie ahead here for the Mountain West Conference. So excited for this season. Happy to have the Beavs and Cougs on board. I think it's going to create some of what they said, just increased and enhanced competitiveness and things like that, at least for football right now. So that's fantastic. Hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching. We do all things Big Ten, all things Mountain West. If you're new to the channel, make sure you give us a like. And, of course, make sure you give us a subscribe, because that's all we're going to do is all football all year round. We'll see you guys next time on the Big Mountain.
It's ascension time for the Mountain West.